Do it, Preston. She's nobody. The voice belonged to a woman in diamonds. Her son, 14 years old, blonde, smirking, lifted a crystal glass filled with red wine. The ballroom went silent. 200 people in tuxedos and gowns watched as he stepped forward. The target? A black woman in a silver dress. CEO of a billion-dollar company. Standing 5 feet away. Preston tilted the glass and poured. The wine splashed across her face, her hair, her dress. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones came out. Someone laughed. Then another. Preston's mother, Jessica Churchill, held up her phone, filming, grinning like it was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. The woman didn't move. She didn't flinch. She just stood there, wine dripping from her chin, staring directly into the camera. Her name was Zara Josh, and in 60 seconds, she was about to destroy an empire. But before we get to that, you need to understand how we got here. Because this moment, this humiliation, it wasn't random. It wasn't a prank. It was the result of something much darker, something that had been building for 27 years. And when the truth came out, it didn't just ruin one family. It changed the rules. Let's rewind. 3 months before the gala, Zara Josh sat in her corner office on the 43rd floor of the Brightwave Innovations headquarters in downtown Chicago. She was reviewing a contract. $650 million. A strategic partnership with Churchill Energy Group, one of the oldest and most powerful energy conglomerates in the country. It was the biggest deal of her career. Her company, Brightwave, specialized in renewable energy infrastructure, solar grids, wind farms, battery storage systems. They were good at what they did. Ethical, profitable, growing fast. But this deal with Churchill Energy, it would have put them in a different league entirely. Zara had worked for 2 years to close it. Meetings, presentations, negotiations, late nights, early mornings. She'd convinced her board. She'd convinced the investors. She'd convinced herself. All that was left was the signing ceremony. It was scheduled to take place at the Harrington Foundation Centennial Gala, a massive charity event. Black tie, politicians, CEOs, old money. The kind of event where deals got done in whispers between champagne toasts. Zara wasn't excited about the gala. She hated those events. The fake smiles, the small talk, the way people looked at her like she didn't belong. But she knew how the game worked. You show up, you shake hands, you smile, you sign. So she prepared. She bought a silver dress. She practiced her speech. She told herself it would be fine. She had no idea what was coming. The Churchill family had been wealthy for 4 generations. Oil, gas, real estate, political connections. The kind of wealth that didn't just buy things, it bought silence. Arthur Churchill was the patriarch, 72 years old, cold, calculating, a man who treated people like assets. His son, Gregory Churchill, was 51, handsome in that aging quarterback way, charming when he needed to be, ruthless when he didn't. Gregory's wife was Jessica, 46, blonde, Botoxed, the kind of woman who wore fur to summer events and complained when the help made eye contact. Their son was Preston, 14 years old, raised in a world where consequences didn't exist, where rules were for other people, where a housekeeper was invisible, a driver was furniture, a black CEO was, well, Preston had been taught, without anyone ever saying it directly, that some people mattered, and some people didn't. Zara arrived at the gala at 7:15. The venue was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, a string quartet playing Vivaldi. Waiters in white gloves carried trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. She felt the stares immediately. Not hostile, just aware. A black woman in a room full of white wealth always feels it. That slight pause in conversation. That extra second of eye contact. The smile that's a little too tight. Zara had learned to ignore it. She'd been the only black girl in her private high school. The only black woman in her MBA program. The only black executive in most boardrooms. She knew how to move through these spaces. But tonight felt different. She couldn't explain it. Just a feeling. A tension in the air. She found her table. Smiled at the other guests. Made small talk about the weather, the food, the foundation's charity work. She checked her watch. The signing ceremony was scheduled for 8:30. 45 minutes. She sipped her water and waited. Across the ballroom, Preston Churchill was bored. His parents had dragged him to another one of these stupid events. He'd been forced into a tuxedo. forced to sit at a table with adults who talked about stocks and politics and other things he didn't care about. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through Instagram. His mother leaned over. "Put that away. This is boring. I don't care. We're here for your father's deal. You're representing the family." Preston rolled his eyes but pocketed the phone. That's when he saw her. The black woman in the silver dress, sitting 3 tables away. Alone for a moment, checking her phone. He leaned toward his mother. "Who's that?" Jessica followed his gaze. Her expression tightened. "That's Zara Josh. She runs Brightwave. The company Dad's working with." "Yes. She doesn't look like a CEO." Jessica smiled. Not a nice smile. "No, she doesn't." Preston watched Zara for another moment. Then he turned back to his mother. "I don't like her." Jessica's smile widened. "Neither do I." At 8:30, the MC took the stage. A middle-aged man in a bow tie, holding a microphone, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here tonight. We have a very special announcement. A partnership that represents the future of energy innovation in this country." Applause. Zara stood, smoothed her dress, walked toward the stage. She felt the eyes on her again. Heavier this time. "Please welcome Zara Josh, CEO of Brightwave Innovations, and Gregory Churchill, Chairman of Churchill Energy Group." More applause. Gregory was already on stage, smiling, shaking the MC's hand. He turned toward Zara as she climbed the steps, extended his hand. She shook it. His grip was firm, cold. They stood side by side. The MC handed them each a microphone. "Gregory, would you like to say a few words?" Gregory's smile was perfect. "Practiced. Absolutely. Thank you. Tonight is about more than just business. It's about vision. It's about partnership. It's about building a future that works for everyone." He turned toward Zara. "Zara and her team at Brightwave have been incredible to work with. Innovative, professional, and I'm thrilled to announce that Churchill Energy Group and Brightwave Innovations are officially entering into a $650 million strategic partnership." The room erupted in applause. Zara smiled, nodded, waited for her turn. But she never got it. Because that's when Preston stood up. He didn't plan it. Not really. He just acted. He grabbed his glass of red wine from the table. His mother looked at him, confused. He ignored her, walked toward the stage. People started noticing. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Preston reached the edge of the stage, looked up at Zara. She was mid-sentence, talking about sustainability, about the future. He climbed the steps. Someone gasped. Zara stopped talking, turned toward him. Preston didn't hesitate. He lifted the glass and poured. The wine hit her face, her hair, her dress. It splashed across the microphone, across the stage floor. For 3 seconds, no one moved. Then the room exploded. Gasps, shouts, phones out, recording. Preston stepped back, grinning, looking at the crowd like he'd just scored a touchdown. Zara stood there, wine dripping from her chin, staring at him. Then she looked past him, at Jessica Churchill, who was laughing, filming, holding up her phone like this was the best moment of her life. Zara didn't wipe her face. She didn't cry. She didn't run off stage. She turned back to the microphone and spoke. Her voice was calm, steady. "Ladies and gentlemen, I need to make an announcement." The room went silent again. Effective immediately, Brightwave Innovations is canceling our partnership with Churchill Energy Group. A pause. "This deal is worth $650 million. It represents 2 years of work. But I will not do business with a family that believes humiliation is entertainment, that raises their children to think cruelty is funny, that films violence and posts it online for likes." She looked directly at Jessica. "You want to know who we are? Watch how we treat people when we think no one important is watching. Churchill Energy Group has shown me exactly who they are." She set the microphone down and walked off the stage. The room erupted again. Not applause this time. Chaos. Zara made it to the hallway before her hands started shaking. She leaned against the wall, closed her eyes, tried to breathe. Her phone was already buzzing. Texts, calls, notifications exploding. She ignored them. She just needed a moment. One moment, too. "Ms. Josh." Zara opened her eyes. An older woman stood in front of her. 70 maybe. Black. Gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. Wearing a simple black dress. "I'm sorry to bother you," the woman said. "My name is Arthur James. I work for the Churchills." Zara blinked. "You work for them?" "I'm their housekeeper." I have been for 27 years. Zara stared at her. Arthur stepped closer. Her voice dropped. I saw what happened in there. And I need to tell you something. What? Arthur glanced down the hallway. Then back at Zara. What you just did. Walking away from that deal. That took courage. But you need to know, this family is dangerous. And they're not going to let this go. Zara's chest tightened. What do you mean? Arthur reached into her purse. Pulled out a small flash drive. I've been watching them for a long time. Documenting things. Things they thought no one would ever see. She held out the flash drive. There are things on here that will destroy them. But you need to be ready. Because when you use this, they're going to come after you with everything they have. Zara looked at the flash drive. Then at Arthur. Why are you giving this to me? Arthur's eyes were steady. Because I've spent 27 years watching people like them get away with it. And I'm tired. She pressed the flash drive into Zara's hand. Use it wisely. Then she turned and walked away. Zara stood there, holding the drive, her heart pounding. She didn't know it yet, but everything was about to change. The video went viral in 40 minutes. Not the whole incident, just the part where Preston poured the wine. Someone had edited it, added music, turned it into a meme. Rich kid ruins CEO's night. When privilege goes too far. She handled it like a queen. By midnight, it had 17 million views. By morning, it was on every major news network. CNN, Fox, MSNBC. International outlets picked it up. People were outraged, supportive, furious, celebratory. Zara woke up to 400 missed calls. She didn't answer any of them. She sat in her apartment, laptop open, reading through the comments. The think pieces, the hot takes. Most people were on her side, but not everyone. She overreacted. It was just a kid. She's using this for publicity. And then there were the others. The ones that made her stomach turn. Of course she made it about race. Always playing the victim. She should have been grateful for the deal. Zara closed the laptop, took a breath. Then she picked up the flash drive Arthur had given her. She hadn't looked at it yet. Part of her didn't want to, but she knew she had to. She plugged it into her laptop and opened the first file. It was a journal, handwritten, dated, meticulous. 27 years of entries. Arthur had documented everything. Every conversation she'd overheard. Every racist comment. Every slur. Every moment of cruelty directed at staff, at vendors, at anyone the Churchills considered beneath them. Zara scrolled through the entries. March 12, 2001. Gregory referred to the landscaping crew as those people 3 times today. Refused to pay them the full amount. Said they should be grateful for any work. August 7, 2005. Jessica fired Maria for asking for a raise. Called her ungrateful. Maria had worked here for 6 years. January 19, 2010. Arthur Sr. laughed about a deal where they sold faulty equipment to a school district. Said it didn't matter because it's just a public school. On and on and on. But the journal was just the beginning. There were recordings, audio files, hundreds of them. Arthur had hidden a small recording device in the kitchen, in the living room, in Gregory's home office. Zara clicked on one. Gregory's voice, clear as day. I don't care if it's illegal. I care if we get caught. And we won't. We never do. Another file. Jessica, talking to a friend on the phone. I don't know why we have to pretend these people are our equals. It's exhausting. Another. Arthur Sr., in a meeting with his lawyers. Pay them off. Threaten them if you have to. I don't care. Just make it go away. Zara felt sick. But she kept listening. Because it got worse. The financial records were buried deep in the drive. Spreadsheets. Bank statements. Tax documents. Arthur had been collecting them for years. Copying files when the family wasn't looking. Taking photos of documents left on desks. Zara wasn't a forensic accountant, but she didn't need to be. The fraud was obvious. Offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Shell companies. Payments to government officials disguised as consulting fees. Fake invoices. Embezzled funds from charity foundations. The Churchill Foundation, the very charity hosting the gala, was a front. Millions of dollars donated by well-meaning people funneled directly into the Churchill family's personal accounts. Zara sat back in her chair. This wasn't just evidence of bad behavior. This was criminal. And Arthur had all of it. Zara's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. It was Marisol Trent, Brightwave's chief legal counsel. She answered. Zara, we need to talk. I know. I've been going through. The Churchills are suing. Zara froze. What? They filed this morning. Defamation. Breach of contract. Emotional distress. They're asking for $2 billion in damages. $2 billion. And they're asking for an emergency injunction to freeze Brightwave's assets pending the outcome of the case. Zara's mind raced. They can't do that. They're trying. And they have the best lawyers in the country. This is going to be ugly, Zara. I don't care. I know you don't. But the board does. I've already gotten calls from 3 investors asking if you're planning to step down. Step down. They're scared. The lawsuit. The media attention. The PR nightmare. They think you're a liability. Zara closed her eyes. What do you think? Marisol was quiet for a moment. I think you did the right thing. But doing the right thing doesn't always protect you. Then what do I do? You fight. And you fight smart. Zara opened her eyes. I have something. What? Evidence. A lot of it. Against the Churchills. Marisol's tone sharpened. What kind of evidence? The kind that could put them in prison. A pause. Where did you get it? Their housekeeper. Arthur James. She's been documenting everything for 27 years. Jesus. I need you to look at it. Verify it. Make sure it's real. Send it to me. But Zara. Yeah. Be careful. If this is as bad as you're saying, they're going to come after you harder than you can imagine. Let them. The smear campaign started 3 days later. It was coordinated. Professional. Articles appeared in conservative news outlets. Opinion pieces questioning Zara's leadership. Her judgment. Her stability. Zara Josh, a CEO on the edge? Did Brightwave's CEO overreact to a harmless prank? Inside sources say Zara Josh has a history of emotional outbursts. The sources were anonymous. The claims were vague. But the damage was done. Social media exploded again. People who'd supported her started questioning. Maybe she did overreact. Maybe the kid didn't mean anything by it. Maybe she's just trying to get attention. Zara watched it happen in real time. And then the video dropped. It was released by a media consultant hired by the Churchills. Security footage from the gala. Grainy. Black and white. It showed Zara walking toward the stage. Smiling. Shaking hands. Then it cut to Preston approaching her. But in this version, it looked like Zara pushed him first. Like she provoked him. The caption read, "The real story of what happened at the gala." It was shared 10,000 times in an hour. Zara stared at the screen. She knew it was fake. She'd been there. She knew what happened. But the video looked real. And people believed it. Marisol called. They doctored it. I know. I've already sent it to a forensic video analyst. He'll be able to prove it's fake. But it's going to take time. How much time? A week. Maybe 2. I don't have 2 weeks. I know. But this is the game they're playing. They're trying to destroy your credibility before you can release the evidence against them. Zara's jaw tightened. Then we release it now. No. Not yet. Why not? Because if we release it too early, they'll have time to cover it up. To spin it. To make it look like we're the ones lying. So what do? We wait. We prepare. And when the moment is right, we hit them with everything. Zara hated waiting. But she trusted Marisol. So she waited. The bank started pulling back. Lines of credit frozen. Loan applications denied. Partners canceling meetings. Brightwave was bleeding. Zara's CFO came into her office. We need to settle. No. Zara, we're losing $2 million a week. Investors are pulling out. If this keeps up, we won't survive. We'll survive. How? By going bankrupt fighting a legal battle we can't win. We can win. With what? Hope. Zara stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the city. With the truth. The CFO shook his head. The truth doesn't pay the bills. It will. He left. Zara stayed at the window. She knew he was right. But she also knew something he didn't. This wasn't just about business. It was about something bigger. Arthur called her that night. Are you okay? Zara laughed. It came out bitter. No. I'm sorry. I didn't know it would be this bad. It's not your fault. I feel like it is. I gave you the evidence. I put this on you. You gave me the truth. That's all. Arthur was quiet for a moment. They tried to pay me off. Zara's stomach dropped. What? This morning. Jessica came to see me. Offered me $2 million to say I lied. To say the evidence was fake. What did you say? I told her to go to hell. Zara smiled despite herself. Good. But you need to know, they're desperate. And desperate people do dangerous things. I know. Be careful, Zara. You too. The press conference was set for the following Monday. Zara's PR director, Devin Shaw, had spent a week coordinating it, reaching out to journalists, booking the venue, preparing the materials. It was going to be broadcast live. National coverage. This was their shot. Zara stood in front of the mirror in her office, practicing her statement. Marisol walked in. The forensic analyst finished his report. Zara turned. And the video is fake. He found over 40 points of manipulation. Timestamps altered. Frames inserted. Digital artifacts. It's a complete fabrication. Can we prove it? Absolutely. Zara exhaled. Good. There's more. What? Arthur's evidence checks out. All of it. The recordings are authentic. The financial documents are legitimate. We verified everything. So we have them. Yes. But Zara. What? Once you release this, there's no going back. The Churchills will try to destroy you. Legally. Financially. Personally. Are you ready for that? Zara looked at her. I've been ready since the moment that kid poured wine on me. Marisol nodded. Then let's end this. The press conference was held at the Riverside Hotel, in a ballroom that seated 300 journalists, camera crews, and legal observers. Zara walked onto the stage at exactly 10 a.m. She wore a navy suit. No jewelry. Hair pulled back. She looked like what she was, a CEO ready for war. Devin stood off to the side. Marisol sat at a table behind Zara, a stack of documents in front of her. Zara stepped up to the microphone. Thank you all for being here. My name is Zara Josh, and I'm the CEO of Brightwave Innovations. 2 weeks ago, I was publicly humiliated at the Harrington Foundation Centennial Gala by Preston Churchill, a 14-year-old boy, while his mother filmed and laughed. She paused. In response to that incident, I canceled a $650 million partnership with Churchill Energy Group. Not because I'm impulsive, not because I'm emotional, but because I refuse to do business with people who believe cruelty is entertainment. The room was silent. Since that night, the Churchill family has launched a coordinated campaign to destroy me. They've filed a $2 billion lawsuit. They've released fabricated security footage designed to make me look like the aggressor. They've planted stories in the media questioning my leadership and my mental stability. Zara's voice hardened. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. She gestured to Marisol, who stood and handed her a folder. For 27 years, Arthur James, the Churchill family's housekeeper, documented their behavior. What she found is not just unethical. It's criminal. Zara opened the folder. Discrimination, harassment, wage theft, embezzlement, tax evasion, bribery, witness tampering. The Churchill family has built their empire on fraud, corruption, and abuse. She held up a page. This is a journal entry from 2003. Gregory Churchill, discussing how to avoid paying a settlement to an employee who was sexually harassed by a senior executive. Quote, pay her just enough to shut up. If she doesn't take it, we'll bury her. Murmurs rippled through the room. Zara held up another document. This is a bank statement showing $2 million transferred from the Churchill Foundation, a registered charity, into a personal offshore account controlled by Arthur Churchill Sr. She held up another. This is a recording of Jessica Churchill using racial slurs to describe staff members in her home. She set the documents down. I have 73 hours of audio recordings, 4,000 pages of financial records, 30 years of evidence, and every single piece of it has been verified by forensic experts and legal professionals. Zara looked directly into the camera. The Churchill family isn't suing me because I defamed them. They're suing me because I told the truth. And the truth is something they can't afford. The room erupted. Questions shouted from every direction. Zara raised a hand. We'll take questions in a moment. But first, I want to introduce someone. She turned toward the side of the stage. Arthur James has asked to speak. Arthur walked onto the stage. Slowly, calmly, she stood next to Zara, looked out at the cameras, and spoke. My name is Arthur James. I worked for the Churchill family for 27 years. I cleaned their homes. I cooked their meals. I raised their children while they were too busy making money to care. Her voice was steady, strong. I watched them lie. I watched them cheat. I watched them treat people like garbage and then go to church on Sunday and pretend to be good. She paused. I stayed because I needed the job, because I had bills to pay, because I thought maybe, if I just kept my head down, things would get better. She shook her head. They didn't. So I started documenting, writing things down, recording conversations, saving documents they thought they'd thrown away. I didn't do it for revenge. I did it because I knew, one day, someone would need proof. Someone would stand up to them. And when that person came, I wanted to be ready. She looked at Zara. Zara, Josh is that person. Arthur turned back to the cameras. I'm 71 years old. I don't have much. But what I do have is the truth. And I'm giving it to you. She stepped back. The room exploded again. Reporters shouting. Cameras flashing. Zara let it happen for a moment. Then she raised her hand. We've submitted all evidence to the FBI, the IRS, and the Securities and Exchange Commission. Investigations have been opened. But I want to be clear. This isn't just about the Chichills. She leaned into the microphone. This is about every powerful family that thinks they're above the law. Every corporation that silences victims. Every system that protects the wealthy and punishes the truth-tellers. Her voice dropped. I'm not backing down. I'm not settling. And I'm not going away. She stepped back. Thank you. The fallout was immediate. Within 6 hours, federal agents raided Churchill Energy Group's headquarters. Boxes of documents seized. Hard drives confiscated. Executives questioned. Gregory Churchill was arrested at his home at 7 p.m., charged with fraud, embezzlement, tax evasion, and obstruction of justice. Jessica wasn't charged. Not yet. But her lawyer issued a statement saying she was shocked and devastated by the allegations. No one believed her. The media coverage was relentless. Every network, every outlet. Churchill empire crumbles. CEO exposes decades of corruption. Arthur James, the housekeeper who took down a dynasty. Zara's inbox exploded. Messages of support. Interview requests. Speaking invitations. But also threats. Anonymous emails. Voicemails. Social media messages. You're going to pay for this. Watch your back. You just made a very powerful enemy. Zara read them, deleted them, and kept going. 2 weeks later, Brightwave's board held an emergency meeting. Zara sat at the head of the table, waiting. The chairman cleared his throat. Zara, I think I speak for everyone when I say, we owe you an apology. Zara blinked. You do? We doubted you. We thought you were being reckless. But you were right. About everything. He slid a folder across the table. We've received over 30 new partnership inquiries in the last week. Companies want to work with us because of what you did. Because of what you stand for. He smiled. We're projecting $2 billion in new contracts by the end of the year. Zara stared at the folder. $2 billion. Yes. More than we would have made with the Churchill deal. Another board member spoke up. We also want to formally reaffirm your position as CEO. Unanimously. Zara looked around the table. They were all nodding. She exhaled. Thank you. 3 months later, Zara stood on a different stage. The Civil Rights Alliance Gala. The same venue where she'd been humiliated. But tonight was different. Tonight, she was receiving an award. The Lifetime Achievement Award for Corporate Courage and Social Justice. She wore a black dress. Simple. Elegant. Arthur sat in the front row, smiling. Zara took the microphone. I didn't think I'd ever come back to this place. Laughter rippled through the crowd. But here's the thing about trauma. About humiliation. About moments that try to break you. She paused. They don't have to define you. What happened to me that night was cruel. It was wrong. But it was also a gift. Because it showed me exactly who I was dealing with. It gave me clarity. And it gave me the courage to do what I should have done a long time ago. She looked at Arthur. Arthur James didn't have to give me that evidence. She didn't have to risk everything. But she did. Because she believed that the truth mattered more than safety. More than money. More than comfort. Zara's voice softened. That's the kind of courage I want to live by. She held up the award. This isn't just mine. It's ours. Everyone who's ever been silenced. Everyone who's ever been told they don't matter. Everyone who's ever stood up and said, no more. She set the award down. Thank you. The room stood. Applause thundered. Zara smiled. And for the first time in months, she felt like she could breathe. 6 months later, Zara and Arthur stood in front of a building in downtown Chicago. A former bank. Renovated. Repurposed. The sign above the door read, the Arthur James Justice Institute. It was a legal aid center. A resource hub for whistleblowers. A place where people who'd been wronged by powerful institutions could get help. Zara had funded it with $50 million from Brightwave's profits. Arthur had agreed to serve as the director. They stood there, looking at the sign, side by side. You really didn't have to name it after me, Arthur said. Yes, I did. I'm just a housekeeper. Zara turned to her. You're the reason we won. Arthur smiled. We both are. They walked inside together. Gregory Churchill was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. Arthur Churchill Sr. died of a heart attack 2 months after the indictments were announced. Jessica Churchill moved to Monaco. She sold the family estate. She stopped giving interviews. Preston Churchill, now 15, was placed in a private reform program for minors. No one knows what he's doing now. No one really cares. Zara Josh never forgot the moment the wine hit her face. The shock, the humiliation, the rage. But she also never forgot what came after. The evidence, the fight, the victory. Because here's the truth about power. It's not invincible. It's not untouchable. It just wants you to think it is. And the moment you stop believing that, the moment you stand up and say, I see you. I know what you are. And I'm not afraid. Everything changes. Zara proved that. Arthur proved that. And maybe, just maybe, you can too. Because the world is full of Churchills. People who think their money makes them gods. People who think cruelty is a privilege. People who think no one will ever hold them accountable. But they're wrong. Someone always does. And when they do, the whole empire falls. If you found this story powerful, share it. Because the only way to fight corruption is to stop being silent. Hit subscribe if you want more stories about people who refuse to back down. And drop a comment. I want to know, what would you have done in Zara's position? Would you have walked away from $650 million? Would you have risked everything, your career, your reputation, your company, to stand up for what's right? Or would you have stayed silent? It's easy to say you'd be brave when you're watching from the outside. But when you're the one standing on that stage, with wine dripping down your face, with cameras recording, with your entire future on the line, that's when you find out who you really are. Zara found out, and she didn't flinch. Today, Brightwave Innovations is valued at over $8 billion. They've become the leading name in ethical renewable energy. Companies don't just want to work with them because they're good at what they do. They want to work with them because of what they represent. Integrity, courage, the refusal to compromise when it matters most. The Arthur James Justice Institute has helped over 2,000 whistleblowers in its first year. They've won cases against Fortune 500 companies, against government agencies, against institutions that thought they were too big to fall. They're still standing, still fighting, still winning. Arthur James retired from her position as director last year. She's 72 now. She lives in a small house on the outskirts of Chicago. She gardens. She reads. She spends time with her grandchildren. But once a month, she goes back to the institute. Not to work, just to talk. To the people who walk through those doors, scared and alone, holding evidence they don't know what to do with. And she tells them the same thing every time. The truth is your power. Don't let anyone take it from you. The Churchill family's empire is gone. Churchill Energy Group filed for bankruptcy. The assets were liquidated. The name was erased. The foundation was dissolved. The donations were returned to the original donors where possible. The rest went to legitimate charities. The family estate was sold to a tech entrepreneur who turned it into a retreat center for nonprofit workers. The Churchill name, once synonymous with power and wealth, is now synonymous with corruption and downfall. And Preston, the 14-year-old boy who poured wine on Zara, no one knows exactly where he is. What we do know is this. He's no longer in the public eye. His social media accounts were deleted. The privilege he was raised with is gone. Whether he's learned anything from it, whether he's changed, whether he's grown, whether he understands the weight of what he did, that's a question only he can answer. But here's what I hope. I hope he looks back on that moment and feels shame. Not the kind of shame that destroys you. The kind that transforms you. The kind that makes you realize you were wrong. That you hurt someone. That you were part of a system that treated people like they didn't matter. And I hope he spends the rest of his life trying to be better. Because that's the thing about moments like these. They don't just change the victim. They change everyone. Zara Josh still thinks about that night sometimes. Not often, but sometimes. Late at night, when she's alone in her office, reviewing contracts or preparing for the next big meeting. She thinks about the weight of the wine, the shock of it, the eyes watching her, the cameras recording. She thinks about the choice she made in that moment. To stay, to speak, to fight. And she wonders, what if she hadn't? What if she'd just walked off stage, wiped her face, and pretended it didn't happen? What if she'd signed the deal anyway, swallowed the humiliation, told herself it was just business? The Churchill family would still be powerful. Arthur's evidence would still be sitting in a drawer somewhere and used. And nothing would have changed. But she didn't do that. She chose the harder path. The path that cost her sleep, that cost her money, that cost her peace, but also the path that gave her something more valuable than any of those things: her dignity. Here's the lesson. Power protects itself. It always has. It always will. The Churchills weren't evil masterminds. They were just people who'd been told their whole lives that they mattered more than others. That rules didn't apply to them. That money could fix anything. And for a long time, they were right. Until they weren't. Because the thing about power is this: it only works if people believe in it. The moment someone stands up and says, "I don't believe you. I don't fear you. I see exactly what you are," that's when the illusion breaks. Zara broke it. Arthur broke it. And once it's broken, it can't be put back together. So what does this mean for you? Maybe you're not a CEO. Maybe you're not dealing with billion-dollar deals or corrupt dynasties. But I guarantee you've been in a situation where you had to choose between what's easy and what's right, between silence and speaking up, between protecting yourself and protecting your principles. And in that moment, you had to decide: who am I? Am I someone who bends when the pressure comes? Or am I someone who stands? Zara stood. And because she did, hundreds of people found the courage to stand too. That's the ripple effect of courage. It spreads. The Arthur James Justice Institute receives about 50 new cases every week. Some of them are big: corporate fraud, government corruption, institutional abuse. Some of them are small: wage theft, workplace harassment, discrimination that happens behind closed doors. But every single one of them matters. Because every single one of them is someone saying, "I'm not going to be silent anymore." And that's how change happens. Not with one big moment, with 1,000 small ones. With 1,000 people deciding that enough is enough. With 1,000 Zaras and 1,000 Arthurs standing up in their own ways, in their own lives, saying, "This ends now." If you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Because stories like this only matter if people pay attention. If you found this story powerful, share it. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's been wronged. Someone who's scared to speak up. Someone who thinks they're alone. Let them know they're not. And if you're that person, if you're the one holding evidence, holding truth, holding pain, know this: you are not powerless. You are not invisible. And you are not alone. The Churchills of the world want you to think you are. They want you to believe that fighting back is pointless, that the system is rigged, that speaking up will only make things worse. But Zara proved them wrong. Arthur proved them wrong. And you can too. Hit subscribe if you want more stories about people who refuse to back down. Stories about courage, justice, and the power of truth. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had to make a choice like Zara's? What did you do? And if you haven't yet, if you're still deciding, ask yourself this: when the moment comes, who will you be? The person who stays silent, or the person who stands? Because I promise you, that moment will come. It comes for everyone. And when it does, the only thing that will matter is the choice you make. Choose courage. Choose truth. Choose to stand. The world needs more people like Zara Josh. More people like Arthur James. More people who look at power and say, "I'm not afraid of you." Be that person, and watch what happens. This is where the story ends. But it's also where yours begins. What will you do with it?